Okay, so on page 597, what is it asking us to do? Page 597, what is it? I know it's on an independent practice page. What is it asking us to do? Lainey? Write each fraction as a decimal. Why do you think I chose this, even though we just traded books? So we were in chapter 1, now we're in chapter 8. Why do you think I chose to do this lesson next? Kinley? Yeah, we've been doing the decimal form of fractions and the fraction form of decimals, right? So why on this page is it a little bit harder? Or why when you look at these you're like, I'm not really sure what that is as a decimal? Addie? Yeah, because the denominators aren't what they need to be, okay? So I'm getting there slowly. What do our denominators need to be in order for us to write the decimal form of a fraction? Carter? 10, 100, or 1,000. Why? Yeah, because those are decimal places. The tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So on this page, all we're going to do right here, I'm on page 595 down at the bottom. See how you have a big chunk of open space under explain how to write a fraction as a decimal using equivalent fractions? We are going to write to convert, I'm going to use a fancy word, fractions to decimals. The denominator we'll abbreviate. Denominator should be 10, 100, or 1,000. And Carter is absolutely correct. It's because those are our decimal places. Remember, if the denominator is 10 and the decimal is in the tenths place, we say them exactly the same. And then right here, it kind of tells us what we're going to have to do to get to that point. Underline where it says equivalent fractions. What are equivalent fractions and how do you create them? Elise?
Equivalent fractions are fractions that equal each other.
Okay, that are equivalent in simplest form. If you reduce them all the way down, they are the same. How do we create equivalent fractions? Kinley?
You multiply both numbers by the same thing.
Yeah, you multiply the denominator and numerator by the same number. So you could multiply them both by 2, or both by 3, or both by 4, or both by 22. Okay? So, do we know how to create equivalent fractions? If we have fractions with decimals or with denominators of 10, 100, 1,000, do we know how to convert those to decimals? Yes. So we're kind of mixing two skills that we already know how to do into a new skill. Now, there are some that we can't easily get to 10, 100, or 1,000. So there's one other way. It's not the easy way. Okay? It's the long way to get a fraction to a decimal. So we're going to focus on the easy ones first. Okay? So now let's look at the next page. There's a whole bunch of problems over there. Let's go to number 3. And again, our focus should be at the denominator. Why do we like number 3? Why do we like that one, Hutley?
Because they can both be divided by 2.
Well, they can both be divided by 2, but if I'm trying to write that fraction as a decimal, do I want to divide them both by 2? That would create an equivalent fraction, but why do we like this fraction as is? Addie?
Because it has a 10.
Yeah, to write a fraction as a decimal. Best case scenario, the denominator is a 10, a 100, or a 1,000. So we like that one. How do we say that fraction, Elia? How do we say that fraction properly? 8/10. Mason, what does 8/10 look like as a decimal? 0.8. Good job. We have an 8 in the tenths place. Number 4. Is the denominator a 10, a 100, or a 1,000? Is it? No. So let's copy that one down here. Now, our focus goes to the denominator. Can we easily get 20 to 10?
Yes.
By doing what kind of math? Emma, how do I turn a 20 into a 10 using multiplication or division? You can divide it by 2. Why on this one is that probably not our best bet? Because if we divide the denominator by 2, what do we have to do to the numerator? Divide it by 2. Is 1 divided by 2 a whole number?
No.
Let me stretch your brain a little bit. What is 1 divided by 2?
-2.
No negative. It's just 1/2. 1/2 or 0.5. Okay, so we can't get that to 10. We can. It's just not, it doesn't make our life easier. So our next guess is to get it to 100. Aubrey, do you know how I turned a 20 into 100 using multiplication or division? Think of our mental math. Or just count by 20s. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. What do you have to multiply by? 5. So let's show. And I'm going to use a dot instead of the x. Times 5 times 5. What's 5 times 1? 5. And what's 20 times 5? 100. Aiden, how do you say that fraction properly? 5/100. How do we write 5/100 as a decimal? Fisher? 0.05. Good job. Next one. Is 20 a denominator that I can work with? Or is that like a perfect one that we love? Why not? What does it have to be? 10, 100, 1,000. Now, sometimes we can divide it by 2 and get it down to 10. Why don't I want to divide that one by 2? Because 17 is not a even number. You can take 17 divided by 2, but you do not get a whole number answer. When we're creating fractions, you cannot mix decimal answers, or you can't have a fraction within a fraction. That's called a complex fraction. We don't get to go those till 6th grade. So on this one, what will we build it up to? Jackson, what do you think we should build that 20 up to?
21.
What does the denominator have to be for us to write a fraction as a decimal? We have 3 options. You just wrote it on the other page. 10,
10, 100, or 1,000.
10, 100, or 1,000. We said we can take 20 divided by 2 and get 10, but we can't take 17 divided by 2 and get a whole number. So what's our next option? Build it up to what? If we can't break it down to 10, we will build it up to 100. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my original fraction again. Lainey, how do we build 20 up to 100? Times 5. And remember what we do on the bottom, we also have to do on the top to keep it equivalent. Now, 2 times 5 is 10. We add our 0. We have 100. Most of us don't know 17 times 5 off the top of our head, but what are we really good at? 2 by 1 multiplication out to the side. Okay, you will have to do, I call this scratch work. You will probably have some scratch work to do tonight. What's 7 times 5? 35. 5, I'm going to regroup. 5 times 1? 5 plus 3? 8. So we have 85 over 100. Wyatt, how do I say that fraction properly? Nope, how do I say the fraction properly? 85 hundredths. Braylon, what does that look like as a decimal? 0.85. Good job. And really what we're doing here, guys, is let's say on a science test, you get 17 out of 20. I give all of your grades as fractions on your quiz, on your assignments. So does Miss Beer, I believe, right? Yeah. She doesn't write in the percentages. Every fraction has a decimal and a percent that goes with it. If you get a 17 out of 20, you get a 0.85 as the decimal. Who remembers, because we've done this with PBIS points, what's your percentage, Fisher? 85%. Yeah, you just move the decimal point 2 times to get your percentage. So this is like real life stuff. When you get a grade on an assignment, after today, you should be able to figure out the percentage. Okay? Because we all give you your grades as a fraction. So like what would your percentage be for this one? You get 8 out of 10. 80%, because we move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So we'd have to add a 0 on that one. What if you, and let's use common sense for a second. If you get 1 out of 20 correct on an assignment, would you think that is a good grade or a bad grade, Bryson? Bad grade. What would your percentage be? Just 5%. Would you say that's a bad grade? Yeah, so some of this is common sense too. Okay, let's look at the next one, 4 over 25. Hutley, can our denominator be 25 to give the decimal form? Nope, but what can I easily change 25 into? Think money. 100. What money can you think about? Quarters. How many quarters give me $1, Hutley? 4. 4 quarters is 100 cents. So we can do times 4 times 4. The denominator's 100, which is my focus. I have to get the denominator to 10, 100, 1,000. That's how I decide what I'm multiplying by. Carter, what's 4 times 4? 16. Gabe, how do we say that fraction? 16 hundredths. Fisher, how do I write 16 hundredths as a decimal? 0.16. Elise, if you got 4 out of 25 as a score on a paper, would you be happy? No, because you missed a whole lot of them, right? What's your percentage if you get 4 out of 100? Or, sorry, 4 out of 25.
1,600.
But that's the decimal, so what would the percent be? And again, I'm kind of stretching your brain. The percent is actually 6th grade stuff. Addie? 16%. Would you guys be happy with that as a percentage? No. Okay, 1/10. Elia, why do we like that one?